Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
All right, guys, I know you all are so excited that it's the beginning of the year because that means taxes. And so, in the spirit of tax season, I got my man, Zach Johnson. He's the chief of numbers at Discovery Bookkeeping. He's a creator of Simple Accounting for Solar Pros. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, I was looking through your profiles a little bit, kind of doing some internet stalking on you, you know what I mean, doing my research for the show. And I noticed that you actually started out in sales. I mean, there was a fancy word for it. It was called business development. But you went from college kind of into sales. What got you into sales in the first place?
Yeah, so it actually kind of started while I was still in school a little bit. I sold for Vivint back in 2016 before they were purchased by Sunrun. Just for a little while. I was finishing my degree online and was looking to, I had some sales experience. So I just wanted to get into a sales role that had a little bit more of an offering as far as compensation was concerned, and had a couple of friends that were in it and talked to me about it, talked me into it, and was doing that for about a year, I'd say. I did okay. It's a different environment. I went from kind of a lighter kind of a sales environment to solar, and the pay is structured differently, the competition's a little bit different. And so when I got into the solar game, there was a moment where I was like, I'm not sure if I'm mentally prepared for this or if I've got what it takes. But it was a fantastic experience. I made some great friends that I still am friends with to this day, a couple that I actually work with and help them out on the accounting and bookkeeping side. So so it started in sales and did a couple other things in between then and what I'm doing now, but familiar with the industry enough to be able to stay with it and be of service.
Awesome. So how did you make that transition from, you were doing business development to eventually opening up your own bookkeeping shop?
I kind of had that itch still. It was a similar itch to when I got into solar originally. It was like the opportunity was there from an income standpoint, also from a growth standpoint. But I just kind of had this like desire to like do something along with what I was doing at the time for a normal day job. I was like, I want to make something. I want to do something. I want to create something that's going to help a lot of people that I'm already somewhat proficient at, because I don't want to really start over. And so I had this kind of like perfect timing. A course kind of came up, said, hey, here's how you can start your own accounting or bookkeeping business. It's like, okay, this is interesting. I practically lived out of Excel up until this time. I mean, all my personal finances and budgeting is done through Excel. I've got sheets galore. And my wife, when I told her about the opportunity, she's like, yeah, it seems like it'd be a good fit for you. And so I went ahead and I pursued that. I took the course, kind of sharpened some of the accounting and finance skills I had gained in college. I got my business degree. And so there were some finance and accounting courses I took with that. And so this just, again, kind of allowed me to sharpen my axe, so to speak, and then also acquire some business acumen as well, because I was jumping into the business owner game and there was a whole lot that I didn't know about. And then pretty much that was about 4 years ago. And then from then I just kind of did it as a side hustle, so to speak, would help out a handful of clients here and there. Eventually switched into working with construction and trades because my business development experience and business experience involved some sales, but it also involved a lot of construction and trade work as well.
Right.
And so I was comfortable with the model. I understood how they operated and figured that I could offer my services to them and be able to do well there. Until this last year, I had a conversation with one of my current clients who's a solo rep out here in Phoenix. And he was like, bro, I need help. He was almost, I would say desperate, because that sounds kind of bad, but he was like, man, I know I'm a mess. I don't want to do it, but I think you could do this for me. Like, do you think you could do it? And I'm like, yeah, totally. So I brought him on, got him squared away. And at the end of it, he's like, man, I know tons of people in the industry in general that could use something like this that would be super helpful to them. It's like, you should jump into the solar game. You should jump back, so to speak,
Yeah.
not as a salesman, but kind of from the accounting, bookkeeping, or even like a consultant side. And I played with the idea for a couple of months. And then about May of last year, I said, all right, let's do it. So I still got my clients, my former clients that I had in construction and trades. But now for the past 7 months, going on 8 months, it's been back into solar, and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Since you have that history there too, you can relate to your clients and what they're going through out in the field. And then, it's like these blitzes and everything that they're doing, they don't really have a lot of mental energy or space to think about, hey, how am I structured in terms of my entity and how should I be maximizing the tax code? You know what I mean? They're just like, what's my bill at the end of the year? Because maybe, and maybe they're in a position to be able to just kind of like pay that and not have to worry about it. But at the same time, it's like, I know how a lot of these guys operate, and typically they spend to the level of their income. You know what I'm saying? So when they get that tax bill at the end of the year, they're just like, what did I do? You know what I mean? And how do I pay this? I got to sell like 5 houses, 6 houses to pay this, right? So
Right, exactly.
What is that common mistake you see kind of the solo 6-figure rep making when it comes to their financials and their taxes?
I honestly think it's just a mindset shift. I think a lot of these guys, when they come into the industry, they come in with previous work experience, but that work experience normally, I'd say commonly, is from a W-2 job, to where they're getting paid hourly or salary. And so they're getting their check every 2 weeks. Taxes are automatically being withheld from that.
Right.
And when they go to file taxes, they're used to just, either, depending on their situation, single, married, kids, no kids, own a home, rent a home, and a bunch of other things, they more than likely probably got a tax refund at the end of the year. And so twofold, they're no longer getting paid W-2, so taxes aren't being withheld. And so it looks like they're able to make a lot more money. They have a lot more money, which is the case, but there's no automated tax withholding that's being done on that. And then come the end of the year, they're like, oh, well, this is a whole new experience for me. I've never done this before, And so it really is just an unfamiliarity with how to operate and how to manage, because typically your job wages, it was personal money. Well, when you're selling solar or really anything as an independent contractor, the money you make is really the business's money. And you have to determine how much you're going to pay yourself from that to live on and do what you will with that personally.
And that's the case even as 1099, they're operating on their social security number. They still need to treat that income like the business money. And then what happens after that? Once you have that top line item, what comes out and how is it taxed?
So you've got your self-employment tax, and this is a 15% tax on your net income. So, and this is a tax that's split between you and your employer. It's shared 50-50 between you two when you had your W-2 job. So since you no longer have an employer and you in and of yourself are the employer and sole employee, you're responsible for the whole 15%.
Right.
Which, depending on how much you bring in at the end of the year, can be quite a hefty fee. Then on top of that, depending on what your income is after deductible expenses, you then now have your income tax bracket. And that also can vary depending on how much you made in the year. For high earners, sales reps that are making, $300,000-$400,000, they can have a pretty hefty tax bill, especially if they're not tracking expenses too. I mean, that's another thing is with this whole mindset shift from going from W-2 to now 1099 business owner. It's like, now you have to have a level of accounting so that way you can track how much you're spending on the business so you can reduce your taxable income. A lot of guys at the end of the year, it's like, oh, I didn't do that. I know I spent money on my business, but I have no idea how much. And so it now becomes an estimating game when you file taxes, and estimating and filing taxes is never a good thing. You're going to do one of two things. You're going to underreport your income because you don't want to pay too much in taxes, but you also don't want to claim too much deductions. So you're going to report less deductions, and then hoping this magic combo will result in you paying the least amount in taxes, when in reality, if you just had a system set up or were told how to get a system set up, you'd be able to ensure that you're maximizing your tax or minimizing your tax liability, maximizing your deductions, and not having to play a guessing game.
What are some good tools that you recommend to reps? I mean, they're in the field. They're not sitting there in front of a laptop. They're not going to log into QuickBooks and enter their expenses, right? So, what are some good tools that you see these high income reps using out in the field?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of tools out there. You've got FreshBooks, there's QuickBooks, there's an app called Hurdler, which is newer to me. I had actually spoken with a rep maybe a month or so ago, and was looking into that as an option. It seems like a pretty viable and simple option for a solar sales rep or independent sales rep. But basically, you just have to have something. And a lot of these programs do a lot of that legwork for you. It's just a matter of knowing what to do to get it set up. Because the common conception is like, okay, well, I've got my business bank accounts, or I've got bank accounts that sort of track this for me. Why do I need an accounting software? If I have an accounting software, I'm just going to have to do double the work to, make everything right, which really isn't the case. A lot of these will sync with your bank account and automatically pull your business activity in, and then automatically categorize those to where they need to go depending on the settings that you make. So I think it's not so much, what tools are out there, because they're out there and there are plenty. It's more so, okay, how do I do this so that way it doesn't create more work for me? And I'm able to use this as a tool versus as a burden. Because again, being out in the field, whether they're in their local market or on a blitz, it's like, that's go time, They don't want to be sitting down at a computer having to key in transactions because, that's not what they do. It's not what their bread and butter is. They're there to sell. They're there to, help people and to raise their income and their lifestyle. So it's kind of you can do it, and it can be done for you if you know how to set it up.
So, the first thing I always recommend to my reps is, if they have the credit, to get a business credit card, something small like $1,000 limit, $2,000 limit, and literally everything that you charge for your business, you run through that credit card. If it's not for your business, you don't run it through that credit card. And this is one of those discipline things, right? Because it always happens. They're like, I maxed out my credit card in the first week. And I'm like, that's not what that was for. And then then we try this, it's like, okay, 2 bank accounts. All right. You've got 2 bank accounts. You got one for business, one for personal. Keeps everything separate. So in your head, you have to justify spending that on your business versus being at the end of the year and you haven't separated those things. You know what I'm saying? So to you, every dollar of gas is on your business, every mile in your car. You know what I mean? You start doing that stuff, and that's not good in an audit situation, right? And so, but then, the next level is typically when they get into leadership, I'm like, all right, now it's time for an LLC.
Yeah.
Now it's time for you to start using the tax code to your benefit and making sure that, you're getting educated on that, right?
Yeah.
And so when it comes to entity structure, what do you recommend? And let's start with, high income sales rep. What kind of entity do you recommend that they open up?
So high income, we're going to say high income's, 300 plus, for solar. That I think that's a pretty even low number for a high earner. But when you're at that kind of a level, you obviously you have to have, in order for you to be able to take advantage of the tax advantages of structuring yourself as a company or a corporation, you have to start out setting yourself up as an LLC. So from a legal standpoint, you're able to establish yourself as a bona fide business. From a tax standpoint, as a single member LLC, you're going to be taxed the same as if you didn't have that LLC. You're a sole proprietor either way. And so, but it's a necessary step to be able to take the next step, which is now once you're at that level where you're making high, $300,000, $400,000 a year pretty comfortably, then you can look at filing yourself as an S corp from the tax side. So again, you're still an LLC, but instead of being taxed as a sole proprietorship, you're now being taxed as an S corp. And there's a couple of requirements and ramifications that you have to maintain for you to be able to keep that status and then be able to take advantage of the tax breaks and benefits of that. And that's where you want to start. Now, I've had people ask, like, well, what about a C corporation? Like, well, C corporations, like we're talking your $1 million earner or multi-million-dollar company. There's a lot of other things that go with that, but we don't want to get so wrapped up in like, that's where I want to get to. It's like, well,
Right.
that's a good idea. But again, we want to start out with the basics, because if you don't have something foundational set up, this whole lofty long-term, like, this is where I want to get to, is like, it's going to be a great thought and a great idea, but it's going to be a lot more painful and a lot more work for you if you try to retroactively go back and do this after you've already made a ton of money.
Yeah, that's what I did. That was fun. Now my entity structure needs a flow chart.
Yeah.
I ended up making a flow chart for my entity structure just to send it to my CPA to make sure that we were on the same page. I was just like, this is getting too crazy. I've got to organize this in my head, which means organize it on paper, and that's all kinds of fun. Okay, so now they're at the LLC level, or they're at the S corp level. And from what I understand about an S corp is you have to pay yourself a salary, correct? In order for it to be, that's like one of the main qualifiers to be an S corp.
Really, yeah, that's it. Like, if you want to start taking advantage of it and start rolling with it, like, that's the number one thing that you have to get set up. You have to get yourself on payroll. Now, people think, well, I'll just transfer, $4,000 a month out of the business to my personal. No, that's what you can do, or what you could do before you filed as an S corp. Now you actually have to get on a payroll software of sorts, a company that's going to automate it for you. One, so again, it's not having to involve so much of your time to be able to manage and run that. But two, it's taking out those withholding taxes and other taxes for you automatically. So now you're kind of back at where you were before solar, before being an independent sales rep, now collecting a check.
Right.
But this time it's your business and you're cutting yourself a check. So it's kind of neat in that regard. But you absolutely have to put yourself on payroll to be able to maintain that status and those tax advantages with it.
Well, and I like that structure because it forces you to save for your taxes. It's one thing if you're a seasoned business owner and you have your tax allocation, but that's going into a 6-month investment. You're making money on it, and at the end of that 6 months, you get it back. So you're actually, but even then I'm like, no, I just want the money to go away. So I don't have the responsibility of not having it when tax time comes. Right. Yeah. And so I know that's a flaw of mine, but right now it works for me. Right. So, but anyways, so when we're talking about the graduation of it here, you got the S corp, you're paying yourself, and let's just say you start your own sales org, or you have a big enough team to where, okay, I'm earning $1 million a year in overrides and commissions. And now I want to make real estate investments. You know what I mean? I want to invest in crypto, which is a whole nother rabbit hole we won't go down because that'll take the whole show. But I want to start making investments. I want to start putting something aside, to grow, right? What are some entity, setups that they can look at in doing that?
It's a great question. From a setup standpoint, and basically the structure is for any other business or any other kind of revenue stream that you want to start doing. Real estate is a pretty common one, especially for high income reps getting into the long-term rental, or even just the short-term rental game. My suggestion is to get a separate entity for that. And so that now becomes a second company, and you're able to manage that as its own business. You'll want to start, I guess, depending on what you're able to do to get that off the ground. I wouldn't worry about trying to do any of that high level incorporation or anything like that. But again, just kind of work through the process. You kind of want to take a look at, okay, well, I want to get into this game. How am I going to start? And then what do I want to grow it to? And if you're able to figure that out and sort of plan it out, not super intense, but again, just kind of get a vision, so to speak, of what you're wanting to accomplish with that and how you want it to look, you'll then be able to know what you need to set yourself up as. I mean, baseline, depending on what it is you're trying to get into, legal structure, forming an LLC is always the best bet.
Yep.
If you're getting into something related to solar, so, I had a consult with somebody the other day I think it was an individual rep who was looking at some point down the road in his vision, he was hoping to offer panel cleaning as
Oh
part of his
yeah.
business, you know?
Yeah.
So like a very associatable, relatable, like pair service you could put on with your solar cells. So
Mm-hmm.
in that case, I mean, you could run it through the same LLC
Entity.
because I mean, you're still in solar, but if you also wanted to treat it as a separate entity, you could just create a DBA
Mm-hmm.
for that solar cleaning business and be
Right.
able to keep everything under one head, but just be able to manage things on a separate level. So it really just depends on what it is you're wanting to get into
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of what that vision or what that those goals look like for it.
Okay, so your next evolution is you're a solar business owner now. You know what I mean? You've got payroll, you've got benefits, you've got people that you're paying on the fulfillment side. Maybe you're paying out, 40 to 50% of your income in 1099 commissions to your guys. You've got real estate, you've got your personal IRAs and stuff like that. You're doing all the things and you're doing it well, right?
Yeah.
At what point should you be looking at things like a trust?
Ooh, that is a great question. I actually haven't considered that
Mhm.
in great detail,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of next step because it's sort of like a tax shell, so to speak.
Mhm.
Again, when we're talking about taxes, there's three different ways about going it. You can reduce, you can defer, or you can eliminate your taxes. And
Mhm.
so a trust is using one of those ways to be able to either defer or eliminate any additional taxes on the money that you made. Because again, the goal is to keep as much money as possible and only pay what you're legally obligated to pay for taxes.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the pain point for people that make a lot of money is that they're like, okay, I'm paying taxes. Cool. I wish I didn't have to pay these taxes. I was speaking with a solar EPC
Mhm.
owner here in the Valley, and they've got an accountant that's working with them. And their accountant's just like, all right, here's your bill.
Yeah.
And the owner's like, well, that's great. Good to know that we know what we owe, but I would like to not owe that much. So what can we do? What can we do?
It's a very simple concept.
Right. Like
Uh-huh.
we want to be able to reduce this. So what
Mhm.
can we do to kind of strategize or be a little bit more wise? Like, can we, open up a trust? Can we open
Mhm.
up like a not for profit? That's another one too.
Yeah.
There's a big sports complex here out in the Valley called Legacy Sports. Absolutely massive, tons of
Mhm.
fun. The biggest sports complex on this side of the Mississippi. But they've got their sports business that kind of hosts and houses all that. They also have a 501(c) nonprofit called Legacy Cares.
Mhm.
And so there's a reason why big companies like that set up not-for-profits.
Yeah.
It's not just because they're trying to avoid taxes, because obviously the not-for-profits have to have a legitimate purpose
Right.
and they're going to do a bunch of good, but it's just another way of saying, hey, I don't want to have to pay as much as I have to in taxes. So if I can give this to a good cause, that
Mhm.
helps with that. That could help with that.
100%. It's taking control back. You know what I mean? Am I going to give this 100 grand to the government and expect them to be good stewards of it? Or
Right.
am I going to consult with some different experts in a certain mission or a certain impact and know that they're good stewards of it and then have the oversight to be able to make sure of that and then have a lot more impact with that 100 grand? And then there is an ROI in terms of your brand,
Oh yeah.
that's, a big reason why I partner with Champion Shoes with solar, you know what I mean? Putting brand new shoes on kids that were in needs feet. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's associated with that solar brand now. And, we can use it in our presentations. Like, hey, every time we sell a system, we do this or whatever. And plus there's obviously tax savings there that we don't have to spend on the company end or personal end that would normally just pass through to me. And I would be doing the same kinds of things anyways. Right.
Right.
And so, like in my case, long term, I want to purchase. Right now it's 340 acres, and the list price is 1.9 million. And I want to set it up. I recognize the government can come in and take land at any point. You know what I mean? Like my legacy is not going to be the land itself, right? It's going to
Yeah.
be that concept though of having control of your homestead.
Yeah.
Renewable energy, sustainable home, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to build that out. But I was thinking about it, and there's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me and make a lot more money than me that have things like that in a trust. And there
Mm.
is a executor to the trust, and they don't technically own any of it, you
Mhm.
know? And so because of that, they don't necessarily, I don't know if it's that they don't pay taxes or they pay a lot less in taxes, or the entity itself doesn't profit, because like land, unless you are running some type of farm that has a profit, there is no profit from it. So, and
Right.
then it also creates like situations in which, hey, my son can't sell it. You know what I mean? It has to stay in the family, or to that degree, And so that's kind of the things I'm looking at now and researching now and excited about uh, doing in the future. Do you have any clients that are kind of looking at that legacy type entity structure or setup?
Well, at the same level, I'm unsure, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that in a general sense, anybody in the industry would like something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, you were tugging at my heartstrings as you were talking about owning acreages and having
Mm-hmm.
land and self-sustainability. I was like, man, Doug's doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
We've we're out here in Arizona. We've been eyeballing Texas for, gosh,
Mm-hmm.
probably about a year,
Yeah.
but more seriously so considering it because it just kind of aligns with what we want to accomplish. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but to your question, like the principle behind it is that behind these tax strategies that allow people to save tons, hundreds of thousands or millions, depending on the situation on taxes, is because they have a legitimate strategy in place.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think we hear, I mean, I hear it still, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that hear it too, haphazardly. These mega earners are just throwing out stuff like, oh, I bought a jet, put it on the business, and saved a ton on taxes.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's so cool. Like I can buy a jet on my business at some point, or like
Yeah.
instead of bringing it out, like, oh, I could buy a truck for my business and I can just save on taxes.
Right.
Like there's some legitimacy behind it, but it's only just like a very small part of their strategy.
Yeah.
Like there's people that, speaking of trusts, like they'll
Mm-hmm.
take family vacations
Mm-hmm.
to Hawaii or something like that, the whole family,
Mm-hmm.
big ordeal, and they're able to essentially put that down as a deduction under
Mm-hmm.
the trust because they're conducting business related to the trust, the family trust. And so again, there's a lot more to it than that. I'm being very, you
Right.
know, eagle view with this or high
Yeah.
level view, but again, the principle is that you can't just take what you hear or even what you Google and say,
Right.
"Yep, that's what I'm going to do," and then think it's going to be okay. There is some wisdom behind having
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's familiar with the process or with the specific strategy
Yeah.
and knows, okay, you need to do this. We need an agenda. We need to be able to have some sort of itinerary, or
Mm-hmm.
we need to, well, whatever it might be, but be able to present to you, okay, here's the plan. We want to help
Yeah.
you take advantage of this. Here's what it's going to take. Prepare this, have this. We'll keep it on file, whatever it might be. And
Mm-hmm.
then now you're protecting the deduction that you're trying to claim. Because if you don't
Yeah.
have anything to protect that deduction, if you get audited, it's like no documentation, no dice.
Right.
We're part of uh, an organization that we get monthly newsletters on that has some tax code
Mm-hmm.
cases and stuff like that. And the number one reason why the IRS or why the court will favor the IRS against a certain plaintiff, depending on the situation for claiming deductions, is because they don't have the documentation to support the transactions they're trying to claim. It sounds so like, ugh, like so
Elementary.
boring. Yeah, so elementary. Like, no,
Yeah.
like seriously, like we have like the whole like got to keep your receipts. Like, I hate saying that, but there's some truth to that because
Yeah.
if you want to protect yourself, not just be able to do it, because honestly, if you wanted to claim whatever you wanted to, you can use
Yeah.
TurboTax free file and write whatever the heck you want in there. And best of luck to you.
Pray.
Um,
Pray.
Really. Or if you want to just provide your CPA or tax preparer with like, oh, these are the numbers I have. Your
Mm-hmm.
CPA, a good one, should do some due diligence and make sure things are correct. But really, if that's what you're providing the CPA and they file according to the information you provided,
Mm-hmm.
it's upon you now, if it were to come back to you, to try and prove and substantiate what you had filed and what you had claimed.
100%. And that's not a fun process. Uh, Thank the Lord, I have not been audited
I
in
know.
my
Have you?
13-year career. Gotta knock on wood on that one. But
Right.
some of my younger years, you know what I mean? Like that would have been bad. That would have been
Yeah.
terrible. They would have put me out of business like that, you know? And
Sure.
so, but anyways, in speaking in that stuff, there really is levels to this, right? So you've got bookkeeping, which is nice, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then having a CPA do your taxes, you don't have to do them yourself, and you know that they're going to be done right to a certain degree. But
Mhm.
then I feel like the next level, and really at that $300,000 mark, you should really be doing this. You hire a tax strategist, you know,
Mhm.
and that's way different than a CPA. A CPA can be a tax strategist, but a tax strategist doesn't necessarily have to be a CPA, right?
Yep.
Um, and that's that person that's going to be able to it's like going, you know, once you get to that level, you need a business plan for your taxes, and that's what a tax strategist does, you know.
Mhm.
It says, hey, we're going to purchase this year, that's going to offset a little bit, you know what I mean, but we're only using that for the business 50% of the time, so that's how this is going to work. And then we're going to, you know, pay the kids, or we're going to use the house as a meeting center or something like that. We're
Mhm.
gonna, you know what I mean, we're gonna start doing this stuff, but you actually have to do it. You don't
Mhm.
just put it on paper. You got to physically do it. Because my whole thing is, at some point, when are you not being when are you not having integrity, right? Integrity is one
Yeah.
of my most important core values. And do you want to be that person that like just writes stuff down and hopes the government doesn't audit me? And then also, like, I know I'm lying when I'm writing that down. You know,
Right.
if I'm not using my kid on social media and they're not doing stuff in the office, they're not contributing to the business, and I'm just writing down the max salary I can for them, you know, at
Mhm.
some point I don't have any integrity, you know?
Yep.
And so, and I get it. I'm anti-government 100%. I want a very small government, you know, but the rules are still the rules, right? And that's biblical. You know, that goes back to what the Bible says. It's like you still have to follow the rules. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Uh, anyways, so I think that's an important piece. I think it does come down to some values there, you know.
Yeah.
But like I said, you got the tax strategist, and then you got legacy planning, right?
Mhm.
Which is kind of what I'm getting into now. And so I think there's levels to this. And I think a lot of guys at the 100 grand level are trying to do legacy planning and do the entity structures and all that. All you're doing is creating more expenses for yourself that you're not
Yeah.
going to save on your taxes because you don't have enough income, you know?
Right.
And so that's kind of my thoughts on it. What are yours?
Yeah, I agree. It's you've got to have, even at the lower income level, a level
Hmm.
of strategy. Like,
Hmm.
okay, you may have heard a lot, you may have been told a lot, you may have read a lot,
Yeah.
um, but you need to kind of look at what's most important. Because yeah,
Hmm.
entity structure is great. Yeah, filing as an S corp is great. Yeah, reducing your tax liability, of course, is great. Um, but you've got to take a step back and look at where you're at. You know, I tell people all the time that I reach out to, have consults with, and if
Hmm.
I ask them like, "Hey, what did you make last year? What are you
Yeah.
making this year?" Because I don't want them to. I mean, not that I don't want to do business with them, but
Right.
they're just not at that point.
Right.
Like, you've got to be at a certain point for us to be able to work together, just because it's going to be more costly for you and more stressful for you than more of a benefit.
Yeah.
You know, the services that we provide are meant to help you. They're meant to free up your
Hmm.
time. They're meant to give you some data, some information behind your business, to arm you with information so you can make educated business decisions.
Yeah.
We've got the resources so that we can, if you're looking at higher level tax strategy, well, we've got a tax partner that's what she does, and she's very
Hmm.
good at it, and she charges a premium for it too.
Right.
Like, a lot of things too is that if you want to have a quality accountant, bookkeeper,
Hmm.
CPA, tax professional, and really quick on the CPA, there are people that don't have the designation of CPA. They're called EAs. I think this is
Hmm.
not well known at all, like in the business world. These are people that pursued a different path, but basically have the same ability to represent a taxpayer before the IRS, like a CPA does.
Yeah, I didn't know
Um,
that.
yeah, and these people are sharp. And I'm not to
Hmm.
dog on the CPAs, you know, CPAs in general. or to say that they're all bad. They're not all bad. Everybody has bad apples in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
But there's a funny saying we have when we talk about CPAs in my industry is that CPA is just an acronym for copy, paste, attach. I might get some hate mail for this, but
Yeah.
and it's all jokes aside. It's just because you're going to get what you pay for. It's such a cliche saying, and everybody throws it around haphazardly, but especially when it comes to good accounting and bookkeeping, like you can find somebody who can do this for you on a monthly basis for $50 a month.
Right.
But I can assure you that you're going to get $50 monthly level of work.
Yeah.
And all the way through the process up to a tax strategist. Like I said, the partner that we work with, she charges and can charge upwards of $25,000 to $30,000 for a tax strategy. That's because she's able to save clients a huge chunk of change. But again, these clients are at that level, making that kind of money.
7-8 figures where she pays for herself.
Exactly. $30,000 for a tax strategy is chump change.
Yeah.
Because she can save, 2, 3, 4 times that in taxes. So if that's kind of where your mindset is like, oh, I want to minimize taxes, like, yes, we're going to get there. But the most basic way you can do that is by having some level of financial organization. We find clients just from that level, when we bring on new clients and do any sort of cleanup, it's about $10,000 in missed deductions just from expenses that were missed. Yeah. So like just doing that, it's like, hey, $10K, not bad. Yeah, you paid a couple thousand to work with us, but you've already made, and we found an additional $7K that was just missed. And so really, from a step-by-step or incremental process, like there is something that can be had and there's benefits to be had at each level. And so you just want to make sure you're starting off at the right levels and not, putting the cart before the horse, as they say.
Yeah, and educating yourself along the way so nobody can take advantage of your lack of knowledge. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've gone into so many business transactions where I'm like, well, I don't know about that stuff. You know about that stuff. Let me write you this check and you figure it out. And then deliver me the final product. And it turns out that I needed to at least have like a 10% knowledge of it so that I could work with them on that final product, And sometimes that's how it happens. Yeah.
Just be through the process. Excuse me. Like, you don't want to do the legwork. You don't want to have to monitor it or manage it. But again, you have a little bit of responsibility to be a part of that process, maybe throughout checking in, touching base, and then you're going to get what you expected or what you were thinking you get out of it because you were still a part of that process from the beginning. Yeah.
100%. So Zach, what's next for you guys in your business right now? What are you guys excited about?
What's that? I'm sorry.
What are you guys excited about?
I'm excited about a lot of things. I'm going to try and keep it succinct. So this year we plan on doing a lot of good things. Again, we're in the solar industry, so all the clients that we look to help and help grow and we'll grow our practice with are going to be solar companies in one way, shape, or form. And so we're looking at about 25 additional solar clients between now and the beginning or the middle of this year. And what I'm doing, and I don't want to go into too much detail with this because it may be a little off topic, but I think somebody might find it useful, is that trying to plan my years with the calendar year proves challenging. And for a handful of reasons, but the one reason is because it's hard for me to like really prep and plan for the next year. All the while it's holiday season. I've got family in town. There's get-togethers, there's celebrations, there's all this stuff. Yeah. And then I've got the beginning of the following year, to try and coming out of all that, to try and have the drive and the energy and determination to implement what I had planned the year before. Yeah. And so to kind of shift that, this is an experiment I'm trying first thing this year. I'm really excited about it because in my mind, I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. But my year, for me personally, for my business, and even I'm going to kind of rope my family into that. My wife and I are going to spend some time and see if this is something we can apply to our family. But our year is going to start July 1st and our year end is June 30th. And so now our year end from a planning standpoint we're going to be able to, have some sort of a plan. I've got a a conference I go to every year for
Mm-hmm.
professional bookkeepers,
Okay.
and that's so I learn a lot from those. But again, that's mid-year
Mm-hmm.
traditionally, and so like I've got all these things I want to implement, I want to do it now, and it's like okay, like I can do some, but some of the other ones I'm going to have to do a lot of work with before I can start rolling out. So the thought is I can, with the timing of it all, I can have that workshop. I can have those ideas fresh in my mind. I'm not
Right.
going to have the distractions of the year end and holiday season and stuff like that.
And tax
And
season.
yeah, taxi. Exactly. Thank you. I didn't want to talk. I don't want to talk about that right now because my days have already been astronomically long.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, so with that thought, we're avoiding the mess of the traditional year end and beginning of the year and able to start working on and implementing things without having to worry about the other pressures.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be present in the holiday season with family. We'll be able to really enjoy our time together and not have to worry about what's going to happen at year end, so to speak. And at the beginning of the year, like I can be present during tax season. I can be present for my clients and help them take care of all the year end stuff without having to try and push through all the things that I want to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, kind of an off topic thing, but that's something I'm really
No,
looking forward to doing.
it's the first time I've heard of that concept, like planning your year from summer to summer. And
Yeah.
like if you're even around the teaching industry, because my wife was a teacher, like it's even better because she's off. You know what I mean? And
Oh
then
yeah.
now she's in tutoring, and they don't tutor as much during the summer as they do during the traditional school year.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a cool concept. I like that because you're not in that mindset. Come the last 2 weeks of December, probably the first 2 weeks of December is when you should be planning your next year because of all the traveling holidays. But even then, you just got off Thanksgiving.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
you're just kind of throwing out numbers. And I think when you're during the summer, that's a little different. Now for a solar sales company, they're probably not even like looking anywhere except closing
Yeah.
sales. You know what I mean? So that's a little different.
That's
But
feasting time, man.
that's also when they're not answering your calls because they're on blitzes and they're going crazy and all that stuff. So it makes a lot of
Right.
sense. No, I think it's a good strategy.
Yeah.
100%. So one of the questions I always ask my guests, it has to do with legacy,
Yeah.
right? And I talked about that a little bit. And so my question to you is, what does legacy mean to you, and what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Gosh, man, that's a freaking awesome question. Um, I don't get to share my legacy too much, not
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have people I could share it to, but I tend to keep that stuff pretty close to the chest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but man, like,
It's the price of entry, man.
yeah, right. But no, I mean, there's a lot of things that I want to do lifetime, and there's so many ways I want to give back.
Mm-hmm.
One of my loves is being able to be involved with sports. I still am somewhat active and I still play, namely men's volleyball. That's kind of my bread and butter.
Nice.
And
I
I
enjoy
coached.
volleyball. It's a lot of fun to play, like it's
Oh,
sand volleyball. Yeah.
yeah, I may not look good as like Tom Cruise or Miles Teller, but
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm going to play. Anyways, so I coach a lot, coached a lot of youth volleyball, club volleyball, both men, girls, and boys.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I freaking loved it. The challenge is that it occupied so much of my time
Yeah.
that on like on a monetary level, like on a per hour basis, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't sustain this, at least right now. And so one of my things for legacy is to get back into youth sports, and not just get back into coaching, but to establish a club
Mm-hmm.
that's based on some of the values that are important to me.
Very cool.
Because youth sports is an excellent program in general. Like no matter what sport it is, I think having kids in sports, whatever age they want to get into sports, of course, if they want to get into sports, sans the pressures of parents,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's an excellent way for them to be exposed, develop social skills, learn how to build some level of mental toughness, work through conflict too. But I do see some ways that it could be improved upon, and ways that we can make it can be done better. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of an overall view. One of the things I want to do from a legacy standpoint. But in regards to my family, like I've got two kids. So I've got a
Mm-hmm.
4-year-old boy and I've got a boy who's going to be 11 months and 2 days. And so like those kids are my world, man. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think I was going to be like so like all about my kids when I was
in love with them.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
yeah,
it's wild. Like I don't even know what to call it. I mean, I've got my religious beliefs and
uh-huh,
my faith and whatnot, so that kind of helped prepare a little bit. But I had no idea beforehand up until now. Like, holy cow! Like these guys mean like everything to me. And
yeah,
so my legacy, kind of with them, is to not build a life to where they can just kind of inherit all of my hard work and kind of have an easier life than what I
right,
did,
right,
because I mean, I think in some way, shape, or form, we want to do that to a degree. But I also know from my personal experience the value of going through hard things
hmm,
and being able to be in the shit,
yeah,
sit in it, to smell it,
yeah.
maybe even playing it. Like it's
You
like,
got to enjoy the process. I mean, when you're first
right,
starting your business, that was the shit, right? And
right,
you're like, how am I
exactly.
going to make a living doing this? And then at the end of the day, you were like, it's exciting getting up tomorrow and not knowing how much money is coming in and not knowing what I'm going to build or create, or you know what I mean? Like that is one of the I guess addictions in entrepreneurship. I should say.
Yeah. We, for
Yeah.
some reason, we love to sit in that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, from a legacy standpoint, I want to be able to have a create an environment where my boys will appreciate and
Hmm.
want to yearn after that. Not necessarily with the same intensity that maybe I have,
Right.
but in their own way. Like, one of my great stewards in life is to be their father. And
Hmm.
so I feel like I would be robbing them of valuable experience if I were just to try and do things for them and to make it to where they didn't have to do what I had to do,
Right.
with some variations, of course. But yeah, leaving my mark on this world through them is kind of one of the ways I want to do that. Like, I've got other things, like I said, I'll indulge you one more thing. I haven't shared so much, but um I've had this on my mind for years, and I want to create the world's largest food truck. And what I mean is, like, I'm going to take a 18-wheeler semi truck. I'm going to convert the
Uh-huh.
trailer into a mobile restaurant,
Hmm.
and we're going to spend a certain amount of time each year over year, and we're just going to feed people. That's in and of itself. Like,
I love
the
that.
details I'm not hammered out, but like in my mind, I picture this 18-wheeler with an RV cab, so that way we can sleep in it and whatnot. And then that trailer is just a full blown, like, kitchen.
Restaurant.
Yeah,
Nice.
we just feed people out the side, and just kind of, a way for us to kind of get out of the norm and do something totally crazy. And that's absurd. I think about it, I'm like, that is nuts. Like, what we're doing, like, of course, like, yeah, helping people out, feeding
Hmm.
people and whatnot, but like the how to, I'm like, yeah, that's wild, that's nuts. So anyways,
So I think, I believe I've got some affirmation for you for that, right? And so the reason is because I normally have my laptop, my phone, my watch, it's all on focus mode when I'm on podcasts. But for whatever reason, focus mode isn't working today. I just checked my laptop, it's not a focus. So I got a text or like literally 2 minutes before you talked about the food truck thing. And guess who it was from? It's a gentleman named Patrick Bolanos. Do you know who that is?
it doesn't sound familiar now.
Patrick Bolanos, his nickname is the Food Truck King. I'm just saying, there's a reason now I got a text from him on another investment, but still, I got that a minute before you talk about wanting to create the world's biggest food truck. So that is the
Dude,
guy that can build it for you. He builds like 40 to 50 food trucks a month out of his facility in
jeez.
Houston. And he builds them all from scratch. You know what I mean? So custom is his thing,
Yeah,
100%. So look him up. Trailer Kings, I think, right? Trailer King Builders on Instagram. Look him up, and he's gonna build that for you someday for sure. Unless you're gonna build it yourself. I don't know how handy you are with that stuff, but he's probably the guy you want to
I know,
partner with.
I'm
And then,
handy.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I know
handy, I'm just not that handy.
if it's a nonprofit initiative, he's gonna be all about it. So that's the guy you want to kind of build a relationship with, and then eventually when you execute on that, that'd be fantastic. And as far as like the sports piece, I mean, what I love about sports is you manufacture some pain, you create pain, whether it's in the training or in the actual games. And so I think the reason that they're so great for our kids is because they prepare them for life, right?
Yeah.
That pain in life, that disappointment of a loss, the disappointment of giving 100% and somebody having more talent and beating you. You know what I'm saying? Because they were giving 100% too. But also seeing the opportunities in the people that aren't giving their full effort, and then you take advantage of that and you win, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just so much education in sports. So I love that that's a huge piece of your legacy.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. It is definitely the price of admission on this show. So, but it's exciting. You know, we all want to carry on our legacy through our children and our values. But when you have some of those like initiatives behind it too, your children see you create that, and that's how you pass the values to them, because they see it in your passion, you know, in your passion for the food truck, in your passion for coaching volleyball, you know what I'm saying? And then they see that like, hey, dad went after what he loved to do. You know what I mean? Like bookkeeping's fun and it pays the bills, you know what I mean? And you're obviously passionate about it. You're educated on it. But at the same time, like when you roll that food truck in a town for the first time and feed 200 people, I don't think anything's going to replace that. Or when your club volleyball team wins the championship, I don't think anything's going to replace that. That's going to be tough. Maybe you creating the same opportunity you have now for other bookkeepers, CPAs, and tax strategists, probably that same type of feeling. But no, I really enjoyed you coming on the show. You shared a ton of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? It's not sexy, but it's necessary. All right. And if you don't want to have the kind of knowledge that Zach has, then you need to reach out to him. How do they do that, Zach?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. Facebook Messenger is a very, very popular way. I get a lot of people reaching out to me there. Shoot me a DM. Mm-hmm. That's the best way to get a hold of me, just at the outstart, and then things work out. I'll roll you through our process and sort of take you in my big, gentle, loving arms to a land of peace and bliss. No, I'm just kidding.
Financial peace and bliss.
Hey, okay. Yes, exactly.
Awesome, brother. Well, we'll include that in the show notes so that they can just click on it and go right to your page, shoot you a DM. But again, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and sharing your legacy as well.
Happy to, man. This was freaking awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. Let's get building.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Building Great Sales Teams. We appreciate it. Be sure to execute on everything that you just heard, and let's get building. Before we sign off, we'd like to invite you to join our Brickyard community. Head on over to jointhebrickyard.com. Again, that's jointhebrickyard.com, or click the link in the description to find out more.